Thanks for coming. What a great crowd we have here this morning. You are at the town hall that we have annually. This time it's just with Senator Dahms. Representatives was missing because of the special session. He's doing some extra overtime work up at the Capitol, and then Senator Dahms will be headed back up there here hopefully next week to get things finished up. Again, welcome. My name is Brad Grew. I'm with the Marshall Chamber of Commerce. Appreciate everybody being here. A few of the things that the statewide business community was kind of keeping an eye on this upcoming session was dialing back some of the mandates that were put on businesses, specifically paid leave, earned sick and safe time, some of those type of mandates that we didn't love to begin with, and they're still on the table. It hasn't been passed yet, but they're still on the table. Hopefully get done in special session. Amending the North Star Promise was another one that we're looking at trying to get done. I don't know that it got very far, but that was another one that we were looking at. Locally, the city marshal, some financing when it comes to the band shell, Freedom Park band shell, some TIF money and Merit Center dollars I know that's being looked at. And also the other thing that I had my ear bent on was the private school funding that was part of the initial governor's tax bill that got stripped, thankfully, too. So those are a couple of things that we were kind of keeping an eye on, and we have great partners at the Capitol, the Minnesota Chamber Policy Team. So if you ever have anything that I can help with that, send it over to me. I can work. They have a strong team with it. So with that, thank you for all your work, Senator. And I know there's you probably had a little bit of a lack of sleep, but I appreciate you being here this morning and kind of doing the solo show here in the Marshall region.
Thank you, Brad, and thank the Chamber for hosting this. We always appreciate it. And thank you folks for coming out on this drizzly morning. Just a little update at what's going on in the Capitol. We got our targets last Thursday morning, and they were agreed on targets. And it's called the Posse Caucus, and there's 5 in the Senate and 5 in the House, and they decided they didn't like the agreement, so they started a protest. And so what it amounted to is, instead of Thursday afternoon having all the conference committees get back together that afternoon and readjust their target because of the new targets that were issued, some lower, some higher, we were spending, the next 4 days basically negotiating, trying to get something that would bring the posse folks in with the group. But that hasn't happened. But where we're at now is, so that put us into special session. And so where we're at now is once we adjourned until next February, all the bills that were active that had not been passed and ready to go to the governor's office, you have to start again. So we appointed work groups. So the work group is the same conference committee people that we had earlier, now that just called a work group. And so the committees that had their work pretty much done just continued, and the ones that didn't have much of it done continued to work on getting it done. And so by tonight at 5 p.m., any bill that is not agreed to in the work study group will then go to the leadership and the governor. And this is pretty standard procedure. Typically, this would have happened about last Thursday. But so what it'll amount to is, at evening at 5 o'clock, if a bill does not have an agreement by all the members in the conference or the work group, then that'll go to the 4 leaders and the governor, and they'll negotiate out the final bill. And usually it's only a couple things that are holding it up. Usually it's just a small amount of stuff that's holding it up. So right now we're working on, we got our bill done late last night, and so ours is sitting completed. So it was in the work group for 1 day. But it still sits in the work group because we're using that as a vehicle bill. So that vehicle bill, what that means is, let's say that something gets agreed to and we don't have a bill to back it up, we will then do an amendment and put that into our work study or conference committee so that it comes that way. And usually in the commerce side, we do use that quite frequently as a vehicle bill because it touches so many things. So anything to do with insurance, anything to do with health insurance, banking, finance, investments, any of that can come back into that funnel for that committee. So that's kind of where it's at. Right now, tentatively, next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we will come into a session, and it'll be a 3-day session, because statutorily, all these bills have to be reintroduced. So they'll get their first reading on Tuesday, and then we have to have a second reading on the next day and a third reading on the next day. We have to have 3 days to separate it. Now, what we could do is we could go through rules and let the rules agree that we will avoid the statute and just do them all in one day. But there's 10 large bills left. We've already completed 9, and there's 10 left. The 10 that are left, 2 or 3 of those are pretty controversial. So even though there's agreement, there will be still quite a few hours of debate on the floor on those, so it'll probably be a 3-day special session. So then we should have it wrapped up. A couple of things that's very important is the state and local government bill is a very important bill, much more than it was years ago. Years ago, if you had a shutdown on July 1st, the governor could make a list of essential services, call a judge, the judge would agree to it, and the essential services would continue to provide service to the state during the shutdown. In 2019, what Governor Dayton did is we got in a little tiff with the governor, and so he line item vetoed the Senate budget. So we had to borrow money to operate that year, and so then we took the governor to court, and we won in the lower court, won in the mid court, and then it ended up in the Supreme Court. So in December of that year, the Supreme Court said that the governor did need to pay us back, pay the interest, and then pay our attorney cost. But he also said that the governor did not have the right to assign essential services, because the governor can't spend money unless it's been approved by the legislative body. If you're in a shutdown, means you don't have a budget, means that there is no money. So for many years, if you had a shutdown, it was automatic essential services, and they got paid. Once we went back into session and got it settled, then they would get paid back to July 1st. The Supreme Court said you can't do that. So this year, I don't see, it'd be a very, very slim chance we're going to go into a shutdown. There's only one issue that could do that. But if we go into a shutdown, we've passed the state and local government bill, which means that the agencies now have authority to operate. So if we did go into a shutdown, it'll be just like in the past. We would have essential services, although they wouldn't need to be appointed, because of the fact that we passed that state and local government bill. So that's kind of an outline of where we're at. I fully feel it should be done the end of next week. There's other things that drive getting this done and why it's important to get it done before July 1st. Because July 16th, Senator Mitchell goes on trial for her issue a year ago, which would mean while she's in court, she's not going to be voting. And so the DFL majority in the Senate would lose a member. So now it'd be 33-33. And so they're well aware of that, and that would mean 33-33 that they have to come across the aisle and work with us to get these bills passed. So that's probably one of the biggest reasons that there will be a driver to get these done, is because they want to make sure this is done before they lose a member. So with that said, I'll open it up before I open it up for questions, Chris is on the energy bill, and that was one of the fairly controversial bills, and they've been working on that, and I know they met with the governor yesterday afternoon, and he's still there today, but I think they're pretty much got things wrapped up and got a bill that everybody can agree to, so I would assume they'll get their bill ready to go, because I know they do not want to go to the leadership team, because we're better off if we can get these bills done in committee than going into the leadership team. And sometimes we have to. A couple years ago when I was Chair of Commerce, we had to go through the leadership team, and I felt comfortable doing that, and we were fine, but you just never know. So just bring greetings from Chris and his apologies for not being able to be here. And with that said, I'll open it up for questions. I'm going to get off easy today.
What's the one issue that may send us into shutdown?
The health insurance for illegal immigrants. And we passed a bill that would, well, first of all, let's go back a little in history. This was buried in a bill in 2023, this health insurance for illegal immigrants. And it was kind of buried in a different paragraph than what licensing of illegal immigrants was. So most of the researchers didn't even realize that this was in the bill until when it kicked in place this January. So the original bill allowed $200 million for 4 years, and they figured there could be as high as 5,000 folks that would get this free insurance. It opened up January 1st, well, January 2nd because of the holiday. January 2nd, this enrollment opened up. We are already, by the end of March, we're at 17,700 and some people, and the cost was in excess of $600 million. So we said we're not going to continue to provide health insurance for illegal immigrants. When we got the deal worked out last Thursday morning, the deal with the illegal immigrants was anybody under 18 could stay on insurance. The children could stay on the insurance and we would take care of that. Anybody 18 and over would go off the insurance when the policy expires, which would be December 31st, so they would go off the insurance. And that's when the Policy Caucus started flaring up and got pretty upset, and they went after the governor. And if you watch part of that, you can hear the pounding and the howling outside the door. Well, that was that group. So where we're at right now is when the agreement came out of the financial structure and some of the policy structure, that was in there. And so we're saying we're going to stick with the agreement. They're saying that the only way they're going to do anything is if we go back to the way it was. So it puts Senator Murphy in a tough position because she has never come and asked us for our help. If she loses those 5 votes, she has to come and ask us. And if she asks us, our position is we will accept what was in the agreement. So that's where the logjam could be. I understood late last night that it was getting closer to our position. So I think at the end of the day, it'll probably be very close to our position, but we'll see how that plays out. But that's the one that's the biggest one that's causing the logjam. The next piece that's causing a logjam is what's going on in Health and Human Services with the nursing homes, assisted living, and the homes for the disabled. What is happening is 2 things are happening. There's a major shift of who's going to bear the burden of those costs. So in the government, the governor's budget and the DFL budget, what they're doing is they're shifting a major number of dollars down to the counties, but they're keeping the same services. So it looks like we're cutting our budget, we are reducing our spending, but we're shifting it to the counties. And so right now, it appears if that shift goes through, the average county would have a 12% property tax increase to cover that. So that is a major issue. That's a big issue. Playing into that issue also is they're going to cut the nursing homes by $260 million. So not only are the nursing homes funding going to be a good share of it now funded by the county if this goes through, there's $260 million that's going to be cut to nursing homes. Well, where the rub really comes is the $260 million is basically the same amount it cost that they projected for insurance for the illegal immigrants. And I really have a problem with, we've got people in a nursing home that have worked hard, saved their money, and due to inflation and the change in life expectancy, many of these people have outlived their money. They help build our communities, they help build the state, they help do this, they help to do that, and we're going to tell them, guess what? You go sit under an apple tree and hold your thumb out and see if you can get a ride to somebody's home and take care of you. But yet we're going to tell illegals, you know what, just come on in and we'll make sure you get taken care of. And much to many people's surprise, we have a lot of illegal aliens on on Social Security. So when you hear about the attacks on Social Security, they're not attacking the Social Security of the folks that should be getting it. What they're looking at is the illegal folks that are getting it that shouldn't be getting at it. So those are the two hot buttons that could cause some log jams here, but I think we'll get them worked out. Yep. Other questions? Yes.
So there was rumor of the Minnesota care tax being raised by 11%, which would put it at almost 13% on all healthcare dollars spent, which goes back to directly to the consumer.
Okay.
Is that off the table now?
Now, well, let's make sure that that I'm on the same plane here. When you say it's a healthcare access fund that they want to raise, it's 1.8% now, and they want to go to 2%. But it's 11. If you figure that out, it's an 11% increase. But it's actually going from 1.8 to 2.
Oh, okay.
But your question, is that off the table? No, that's going to happen.
Okay.
The 1.8 is going to go to 1.2.
1.8 is going to 2.
Yeah, 1.8 goes to 2. Yes, but that is 11%.
That's 11%.
And
Okay.
so sometimes you use the number that's the best to sell, and so the 11% is that's basically what all you've been hearing is that it's 11%, which is correct. But yes, that's going to happen. Yep. Mm-hmm. There's one here.
Do you foresee much discussion as far as bonding in a special session, or maybe what's your input for what bonding might look like after the special session or next year's session?
Okay, in this agreement, we had bonding, and it'd be $700 million. How we come up with the $700 million is that's the amount that the Minnesota Management and Budget says that we can spend. I mean, you have a budget, I mean, there's so much you can spend for bonding, and this year we should be able to spend about $700 million. Next year we could spend probably close to, it's going to be close to $2 billion. So what they're looking at now is doing a 700 now and a 1.3 next year. The 700 that we do now would be for projects for like HEPR at the colleges, for state buildings and things like that, and for some of the road and bridge money. Those would be the type of projects that would be in there. Now, if the DFL chair wants 1.3 this year, she wants to reverse it. And if we do that, that other 600 million then would start picking up some community projects. Now, what happens is when you have the sewer and water issues throughout these small communities, there's two ways they've been being funded in the past. One is through PFA dollars, which is Public Facility Authority, and that comes from bonding, or the other one is a direct bond. And so we've run into a little bit of a problem here because you have some small communities that will get the direct bond, which is a grant. If you go through PFA, what you get is a partial grant, but most of what you get is going to be a low interest loan. And what that does is gives you the opportunity then to go into USDA and get some funds from them at low interest loans. So it's not working real well because you got Community A sitting here and gets a free grant, and Community B has to pay it back. So what I've been suggesting is let's, instead of doing the grants to individual communities, let's increase the amount that goes into PFA so we can get the same number of projects done, but increase them so everybody's on a level playing field. So maybe we increase the grant through PFA, but not to the amount it would be if you got your whole grant piece. But for the bonding, it appears, yes, we will have a bonding bill. And I think it's going to be in that 700 because I know we've got the votes to do 700. We don't have the votes to do 1.3, and we need 41 votes in the Senate to do it, and the House would need 68 the House would need 70-some to do it, 72. So that's what's happening there. And then you had a question?
So it was basically what you
Okay.
said, so thank you.
Yes.
Back to the Medicaid.
Yes.
it's a related question, but not dealing with the same issues that you were referring to. It appears that in Congress, your colleagues are pushing for a $5 billion cut in Medicaid. And I'm wondering whether the legislature is taking action in any of your budget bills to solve or at least cushion the harm it's going to do to nursing homes, which I understand like 50% of the people in nursing homes today rely on Medicaid to pay them, and where are they going to go if they're kicked out of their nursing homes? And so I was wondering if there's a relationship, if you knew what Congress was going to do and what the state was going to do to try to cushion the harm that it may do.
I do not know what Congress is going to end up doing. If they pass that $5 billion, you're going to find that it's probably not going to have any effect on us, because unless we've got people on Medicaid that shouldn't be on Medicaid, and we do have people on Medicaid that shouldn't be on Medicaid, and those numbers are rising consistently and surprisingly, and so that's where those cuts would be. So we hear a lot of cuts coming from the federal government, but if you track those down, a lot of those cuts, the folks that are getting cut shouldn't have been getting the money to start with. Now, next part of your question, what are we doing to take care of that? We're managing our budget, and our budget here, the Medicaid that we're putting in for, I mean, our nursing home funding, no matter what they do, we're going to be at these levels, because that's probably as far as we can get. But I'm not too concerned about the impact of that. I'm much more concerned about the impact we're going to have by cutting the $260 million out of nursing homes by the state versus what the federal might do. And to be honest with you, I have to tell you, the last 2-3 weeks, I haven't paid much attention to the federal, because my time has been spent focusing on what we're doing, trying to get our budget so that we can get enough votes to get it passed. So, but you're right. I mean, we don't want to be, I mean, people that are on Medicaid in a nursing home need to be taken care of. Other questions?
It doesn't, money from the federal government that they're gonna make these massive cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, Social Security, all the safety nets for the children, the elderly, doesn't that funnel down to the state somehow? Don't you get money from the federal government? So
On Medicaid, we do get.
If those cuts are gonna be drastically made at the top, and you're saying that people are not, that don't deserve it or qualify for it, that it's gonna be that huge of a cut, I'm sorry, I don't believe it.
No, that's
believe it
okay.
at all.
First of all, I'm going to clarify right now, I did not come here to debate what President Trump is doing. I'm here to talk about the state, but I'll address your question. But I'm not going to get into a lengthy conversation on Trump and what they're doing at the federal level.
But doesn't the money
Excuse me,
funnel down?
I'm focusing on the state level, and you have some trickle down, but not near as much as what you think you would have with Medicaid. And you do not know, and I do not know how they're determining who's eligible and who is not. What I've seen so far, the cuts have been applying to people that are getting money that shouldn't be. And so you can shake your head no, that's okay. We would agree to disagree. Well, you probably won't agree to disagree with me, but that's okay too. But like I said, I can't set Trump's agenda. I'm not here to set his agenda, and I'm not here to debate his agenda. I'm here to talk about what's going on in Minnesota and what we can do to make Minnesota a better place to live. And sometimes that's putting your foot down and saying we've gone far enough, one way or the other. So, other questions? Yes?
Have you guys come to an agreement on cuts to LGA and CPA?
Well, it's a very good question. We were very surprised, not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before. Tax Committee had never talked about cuts to LGA and CPA. And so last Thursday morning, when the bill, a week ago this last Thursday, when the tax bill was introduced in Tax Committee, the chair notified the members that there's going to be a $20 million cut to county program aid, a $20 million cut to LGA, local government aid. And that was the first that anybody knew about it other than the tax chair. So that is not in the House tax bill. And when they come after the agreement was made on the dollars that were going to be spent for the budget, the total budget, and then also how much was going to go to each committee, the tax committee received more money than what the tax chair thought they would. So she moved the LGA down from 20 to 10 and CPA from 20 to 10. So there's a $20 million instead of a $40 million cut there, but that is not in the House language. I don't think it'll survive. In other words, I don't think we'll see the 10 and 10, but it's possible that we could, depending on what other things are there that they have to negotiate with and what you have to give and get. But I don't think that'll be in there.
And then are they planning on, so if, because I know it's like 1.1% to cities, if that cut does go through, is there a plan to make it up in the future? Because, I mean, I know it's not much to
No.
like Cottonwood, but at the same time, we've not seen a cut in many years, so
Right.
then we've only gone forward, even if it's $600 or $6,000, how do we make up the $3,500 that we would lose at the 1.1%?
Well,
And then how do we move forward
Yep.
from there?
Okay, we do not have any, in cases like that, we do not commit to future catch-ups. The only time that happens is in school districts. And there is some statute that requires that. But on LJ and CPA, no. And so there has been no discussion about when we would make that up, and no discussion about permanent reduction. So if you lose it, unfortunately, it's going to affect your tax base. And that's where we have a problem, because you're getting this money shifted down to the nursing homes to you. Now you're getting, if that gets shifted down to you, and so you could be with nursing homes about a 10 to 12%. I don't know what LGA would do for your community at 10 million for the entire group that get it, but it's going to be some. And then you put your own operating cost increase due to inflation and stuff. Our rural counties are going to get hit hard, and it just is going to be a problem. Other questions? Yes.
Just to add on to
Yeah.
her point, first off, Senator, you've been a strong supporter of local government and county programming, so thank you for that. The 10 million, the impact for Marshall of that reduction would be a reduction of $48,500.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So it does have a realistic impact. There's no question about it. It's kind of hard to find $48,000 in the dust anymore. I mean, for a while you could go look in the corners and find a little dust. That dust is gone. The paint's wore off the corners while you're looking for it. So we've got some serious problems on the horizon if we let some of these cuts get through, and it's going to affect everybody. And unfortunately, what it's going to do is it's going to shift these property taxes, and we're going to have some severe issues with elderly people that these property taxes, they just can't continue to pay them. And there's a lot of problems. I mean, there's just a lot of dark clouds out there with some of this stuff that really hasn't been, in my opinion, that well thought out. Other questions? Yes, Carolyn.
So do you think that there will be a tax bill that will be fair for agriculture, that will be good for, generally for agriculture here in southwest Minnesota?
We passed a really good agricultural bill. It's sitting on the desk to be signed. And that is a very, very good bill for agriculture. There's money in there for young farmers in different ways. There's money in there for the small groups, the garden farmers. There's money in for that. Money from the farm to school program. There's additional money in there for the mental health piece. The downside of that bill is there's two things. One of the downsides is the increases in fees. Those increases of fees came in grain buying and grain storage. And there were some massive changes. And I mean, like some of these co-ops, they could have a $10,000-$15,000 fee increase in 1 year. And that's pretty darn tough. So what we ended up doing is we couldn't get them to take it out, but we did negotiate that the most the fee could increase any 1 year is 150%. So if you're paying 1,000, it couldn't go over 1,500. And we did get that in the bill, and you say, well, that's not that much, and it isn't, but it's amazing how much difference it can make, because if you've got somebody, I've talked to some people that their new fee was going to be up around $40,000. Now that's a big, big change. The other fee that's in there that's going to hurt some retail is the food handler license, and that fee went up considerably in the ag bill because that comes under ag. And so some of the expanding convenience stores are quite concerned because of the amount. I know some of the convenience stores that were paying like $400 are now paying $8. Some were paying $8 are going to be around that $12 to $14. That's a big change in 1 year. And so that's the downside of it. But there's a lot of good things in there. There's a piece in there for MILC, Minnesota Agricultural Leadership Council, and they do really good work. There's a piece in there for MARL, for the training, or for the leadership program that's at Southwest State. There's some money in for that. Now, we could not get it to be a line item, but we did get one biennium. So next year, or 2 years from now, go in and get it to be a line item. Just a lot. There is a lot of good things in the bill, especially for young farmers. There's a lot of options out there. That a couple of things that were changed is the amount of money that you could apply for, and then also some of the qualifications.
So on the tax side, for relating to young farmers, the beginning farmer tax credit, there was a cap that we were hoping would be increased in the tax bill. On the Senate side, do you know if that was included?
Okay, that's actually in the ag bill.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And what that is, and it's at 2.8 million. And where we got into a log jam was last year, the 2.8 million didn't extend, there wasn't enough money there. And it's kind of on a first come, first served basis if you qualify. And so we've got quite a few farmers last year that give a break to a young farmer, and now they're not going to get compensated because the pot ran out of money. I wanted to go back retroactive and pick those people up and then move it forward and then use 2.8 million this year. But we just didn't have the money. Our budget target did not allow us to do that. And so we put in the same as we did in the past, 2.8 million, but it's for the coming biennium starting July 1st.
Good.
Other questions? Yes.
The GOP side threatened the government shutdown because they felt very strongly.
What's this now? I can't hear you, ma'am.
The GOP side threatened the government shutdown because they felt very strongly that the bill to provide undocumented immigrants with health care should not be passed. What's stopping either side from doing the same thing for any issue they feel strongly about?
So the GOP is going to do what?
They were threatening a government shutdown or to not pass the funding bill.
Well, we're not threatening a shutdown. I happen to be one of the GOP people, and I'm on leadership, and I can speak for the Senate. We're not looking at a shutdown. We're not asking for a shutdown. So whoever's publishing that information is publishing something that they want you to think. Because I can speak for the Senate, and we do not have a position of a shutdown. We've been working harder to not have a shutdown because of the consequences we were going to have. And even though some of those complications have been mitigated, a shutdown is not a good thing. And I'm not after shutdown, and neither is my team. So I don't know where that's coming from. Right now, I could say the same thing about the Posse Caucus, that they want to have a shutdown. That's not what they want. They want to get funding for what they believe in, but they're not looking at a shutdown. We don't want shutdowns. That's not good for us. One of the worst things a politician can do is have a shutdown. because then you get into a bunch of finger pointing and nobody wins in that deal. So I can tell you from the Senate, GOP caucus, and our leadership team, which I'm part of, we are not after a shutdown.
Could it be coming from the House then?
I can't speak for the House, but I do not believe, no, I don't know where you got I mean, I don't know who's posting that or where you're looking. I don't think it's accurate information. Because I have not heard anything from the House Republicans, and I do talk to them a lot. I have heard nothing from them wanting to go to a shutdown. Nothing. Now, does that mean that they didn't want to extend it to a special session so we could have more discussion about it? We did not do that. I can't speak for the House Republicans, but they're not looking for a shutdown. I can't speak for the House and can't answer that. I don't know where you're getting your information, but you might want to check the validity of it, because I can pull my phone out and I can read you all kinds of things that the Democrats are going to do or we're going to do that are just simply not the facts. But it gets people to read it and sells some of the papers. Other questions? Yes.
Earlier you said that there was one controversial issue that could stop progress, and
Yep.
that was the healthcare for undocumented immigrants.
Right.
Can you talk about what, if any, negotiations there have been? Is it an all or nothing? Or have there been discussions about the spectrum of acceptable care levels, or like?
Fair
is it
question.
All or nothing, or is there a negotiation on what that would look like?
It's a very fair question. And that's how we got to the agreement, was through negotiations. We started zero money. They started everybody gets money. I'm talking of illegal and undocumented. Okay? We came to an agreement that anybody under 18 would continue to have health insurance. And that would be the children or young youth. 18 and over would not. And that's the agreement that we all agreed to. And then people started flaking off and not wanting to live with the agreement. And so that's why this is a pretty hot topic right now, is because people laid their cards on the table, they made an agreement, and the agreement was signed, and this is what we're going to do. And unfortunately now, the Posse Caucus started to object. And you've got, I'm going to speak now for the Senate. Senator Murphy is the majority leader, and she's got a problem. Because how is she going to get the votes to pass that bill that she agreed to and her caucus agreed to? How is she going to get that passed if she don't have those votes? And she really don't want to come over and ask us for our votes. And I'm not criticizing her for that, because there's a lot of things go into how you put your vote package together. But yes, there's been a lot of negotiations gone. I mean, yeah, that's a highly negotiated issue so far, and I'm pretty upset about it, because we came to an agreement. Now let's live with the agreement we came to. Other questions? Yes?
EMS sustainability, is that still in the Health and Human Services?
There is money in there. There's money for EMS in there. And as of late, it was surviving. Now it's not going to be the big amount that's going to make things work for a long term, but it's another one of those short-term fixes till we kind of get out of this budget. I mean, to get out of some of these shortfalls we're going to have. Unfortunately, well, there's an unfortunate and a fortunate part. The fortunate part about this budget we're doing now is we are taking care of some of the tail deficiencies. But we still are going to have, right now, the budget we have right now, we're cutting about $5.5 billion in state spending, but a lot of that's being shifted to the counties. But we're also picking up some cuts in the tails. So right now, the tails would be somewhere between $1 and $2 billion shortage, deficiency in the 28-29 biennium, 28-29 biennium, there would be still a couple $2 billion in deficiencies. Based on what we're getting, statistics we're getting now and what the forecast is. But if that forecast changes, if it gets better, we would have a lesser deficiency. If it gets worse, we'll have a higher deficiency. But so we are taking care of some of those deficiencies down the road. So some of the lack of funding on some things and some things, the shifting is taken care of down the road deficiencies. But I still say we, as a state, we need to stand up and we need to do our cuts and not shift it down to the counties or the cities. That answer your question, or?
Just need that sustainability to.
Absolutely. Absolutely we do. No question about it. This again is, like I said, a Band-Aid, but that has to be fixed because they're very important services. And yeah, no question about it. Something has to be done there. That is a topic that's being discussed a lot, and we'll see what happens when we get through the special session, what plays out there, because there's a lot of support for fixing this long term. The dollars get pretty high, and I'm not sure where we would take them from, but we could certainly take some from somewhere to beef it up a little more than what it is. And I can't tell you what the number is. When I saw the numbers, it was something that would help, but it's not the end result. It's not gonna fix it forever. Other questions? Yes.
On the topic of the illegal immigrants and healthcare, can you go over how much we originally anticipated spending, how much we are currently spending in terms of enrollment?
Originally, if I remember right, it was around 200 million. And it's going to be, and right now, it's projected to be over 600 million, and that's with the enrollment. Right now, there's 17,700 and some people that are enrolled, that have already enrolled. And we're only through the third month. I mean, yes, it's almost 5 months out, but the way they count the enrollment and stuff, it was actually through March 31st, as I remember. And so.
So are we like 3 times over? Was that?
The number of people they thought they would sign up was going to be 5,000 for the period. And it's 17,700 and some at this point, and it's not, I mean, there still could be some more signing up. However, the sign-up rate now is going to be much, much, much smaller. If, you know, it's going to be some, but it's not going to be, it's not going to blow up like it did the first trip around.
And at that full number that we're looking to be at, how much money are we talking instead of paying?
For what?
For that coverage.
Well, right now, with the number that are signed up, it's going to be $600 and some million. But the 260, the number, when I talked about the nursing homes, I used the number of 260 because that's the projected and forecasted number. But keep in mind, the forecast is based on a lower number of enrollees. And so I am using that number because that is a forecasted number of 260 million. And that's basically what we're cutting the nursing homes. Other questions? Yes.
Do you know where things are at with exemptions regarding the paid leave that starts in January?
There are no changes. And we've put in several bills, several amendments to amend, well, today you try to amend it through a bill because it went into statute 2 years ago and comes into play in January. We've been able to make no headways, none. They just are not willing to back up on it. And the only thing that we got was the earned sick and safe time. We did get an amendment on that reduces, if you have 3 or less employees, you're exempt. And some of them were very unhappy. Some of the folks across the aisle were very unhappy that some of their folks voted with us in order to make that happen. In fact, one of their members carried the bill. And so then with her carrying the bill, we had the votes. And then some other folks voted in with us. But that was the only thing we've been able to get changed. And they're going to the mat on this paid family leave. And it's really unfortunate because there's so many things, I mean, we understand there's gonna be paid family leave, but then let's fix it and clean it up. I mean, the definition of family is very, very broad and very loose. How you can qualify for it is pretty simple. And then the other part of it is that if somebody goes on paid family leave, you're gonna have to find somebody to fill in for them. And then when that party comes back from paid family leave, they get the same job they had. So now what do you do with the person you hired to fill in for? Now let's say you go a different route and you decide that you're going to talk to your current employees. Let's say you're an electrician and you have 3 employees and one of them goes on paid family leave. So you go to your other 2 and say, you know, would you folks mind working overtime? And they agree to a price for the overtime, and so they work overtime. So they get through this, and the guys work overtime, do this and do that. Now it's over with, the person comes back. So the boss says to these 2, you know, you guys, I really appreciate what you did. You really supported this company and supported me and helped me through this. I'm going to give you a bonus. And the person that's gone says, no, wait a minute. I get that bonus too. So there's a lot of things in that bill need to be cleaned up, but we have about half a dozen people that are very strong activists. And they came in as activists, and it's a whole different way of dealing with that.
So that percentage already went up before the program even goes into effect, and is it in danger of going up more?
Well, we feel coming out of conference committee that we're going to lock that down. I don't remember the number it is, the exact number it is, so I don't want to quote it, but we were going to give them 0.1%. So if it's like 8.0, it could go to 8.1 or 0.81, but and then that's capped at that. I wouldn't be surprised we might get that through negotiations and special session, maybe. But I'd say that's probably about the best. But yes, if it's not capped, I mean, there is a cap on it now, but they'll just blow by it, and they don't need to come back to us. I mean, it's much more costly than what was first projected.
It also seems like it's just ripe for fraud. Unless
Well, it
somebody's gonna watch this
absolutely
program.
is. Absolutely is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I say, the definition of family and how you can be brought into caring for somebody, I mean, quite frankly, and some of you will get upset with this and some of you will laugh at me, but I'll tell you what, if we don't think that people are going to take off January, February, March, and go to Arizona and take care of mom and dad, well, I'm sorry, but I think that will happen. Anyhow, we're getting off the track here. Yes,
Since we have projected large budget
deficits?
deficit coming up, and we now have a special session going on, special sessions cost money, right? So the party that didn't show up for the first half of the session when it started in January, are they working for free right now, or?
No.
I assume not.
No.
So how much will each day of a special session cost us? Approximately, do you know?
Well, not as much as you would think, because the only change would be basically the legislators coming in for the special session. And so we would get a daily per diem for that special session. We would get paid mileage for one trip in and out. Because all my staff will still be there whether we have special session or not. All of the nonpartisan staff will still be there, so it's not near as much as what you think it is for a special session, but it does have a cost, no question about it, but it's nothing astronomical, that's for sure. But it is, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's when we start talking about a government budget, I mean, the budget this biennium we're wrapping up now, that was a $72 billion budget. And
It's not sustainable.
nope, it is not. Well, it was an increase of, it went from 50.5 billion the previous biennium, and then this one now it went up to 72. So if you go back to 2011, when we did the budget, through 2023, the budget raised about 16.5 billion roughly. In this 2-year period, the 40-some billion they spent, part of that was one-time money through COVID and things like that, and through looking in the corners and getting all the dust out. But they actually spent the 19.5 billion surplus plus 10 billion in new taxes and fees, so 29 billion of new money. And typically, you can see if we went 12 years with 17, rounded off up to 17 billion, it's 1.5 to 2 billion a cycle, or per year, or 3 billion a cycle. And this was much, much more than that. And that's why we have a problem today, and that's why that problem isn't going to go away tomorrow or the next day, is because too much of this, there was just too much spending. Other questions? Well, if there's no other questions. Yes?
What would you say is the biggest obstacle to progress in Minnesota politics?
What's this?
What do you see as the biggest obstacle in Minnesota politics today?
Well, we're at that. Well, if you take a look at what's going on, we have 201 legislators, 100 Republican and 101 Democrat. So there's some pretty deep lines drawn. If these elections get closer and closer all the time. And so what's happening is when you get that close, it's really hard to get things done, because if you're in the majority, you need every vote you got. I mean, in the Senate, there's a 1-vote majority. So in order for them to move their agenda, which you may or may not like, or I may or may not like, they can't move it until they're lock, stop, in step. And that's what's been happening the last couple of years. And so basically, when you have a trifecta, whether it's red or blue, you have a lot of power, and sometimes people get a little too drunk on the power. And you can do anything you want to do. And so if you have some pretty strong activists come in, and you need to have that vote, there's a lot of things that are going to happen that you may or may not agree with, but in order to keep your caucus together, that's what happens.
So what do you see as ways forward to address the polarization so that it's easier to work across the aisle?
Well, this is probably the 4th time in history we've been in this position as a country, and that's the same way in the country. And they work themselves out, and you never know what it's going to be to work it out. It's been wars, it's been recessions, it's been different things over the years, but they've always worked out. And I think they'll work out again. How long will it take? I don't know. I would be very surprised if we see a trifecta again for a while, because, and I don't care which party it is, that is not the way to govern. And it doesn't work well. It may work well for a few, but for the general population, it doesn't work well. Other questions or comments? Yes?
Hey, do you have plans to give Wendy a raise because she's a rock star?
Well, I'll make sure she gets a compliment, but we're not going to talk about the back part of it. Because I'm in a curious position, because I'm the personnel chair. And so I won't mention, but I will make sure I give her greetings and tell her that you appreciate working
She
with her.
always answers my phone calls.
Yeah.
It's your favorite staffer.
Yeah, she does good. She does well. She's been there she understands the process, and she has a lot of good connections. She's been there for 20-some years. And she's had this district Denny Frederickson is who I placed, and she was Denny's secretary for, I think, 11 years, and she's been now mine for 15. So she understands this district pretty well, and she knows she's got the connections in the agencies to who we need to talk to, and she's pretty sharp on what goes on statutorily. So, yeah, but I will make sure I tell her that. Yep. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, well, thank you folks very much for coming today. I do appreciate it. If you ever want to get a hold of us, just call us or send us an email. And if you got some problems we can help you with, let us know. And again, I'd like to thank Brad and the chamber and all your chamber members for supporting this for us. We do appreciate it. And we will be back again before session next year to talk again.
Really quick, there was some money found outside, over by some SUVs, it was $150. If you're missing $150 out of your pocket. Go see Kim in her office, don't tell me. Legitimate.